welcome everyone to this session, Stretching Agile. So we will first introduce ourselves. My name is Xavier. I work for Murex in Paris. Murex, we are building a software for capital markets.
My name is Balosin. I'm coming from Bucharest, Romania. I work together with Xavier. I'm acting as a software architect, but I also graduated the Scrum Master certificates.
Okay. So, and we are working together because in Murex we have set up an offshore software development factory in Bucharest 3.5 years ago now.
Yeah.
So I will just start to explain you why we did this, what is a bit of context about this. So once upon a time in the capital markets land, in fact not once upon a time, but in 2008, we were struck by the subprime crisis. Okay. After this, the regulators of all the capital markets set up a number of rules to prevent such crises to occur again in the future. So now a bank cannot anymore just make a transaction with another bank. The bank has to register the trades into a global repository to be transparent about all activities. The bank has to go through compensation houses for bilateral payments so that the house ensures the payments and prevents a risk of payment default. They have to do what we call collateral management. They have to put some money in proportion of all the risky assets that they have, and they have to report this to a central repository. So basically all these rules make a lot of new actors appear in the domain of capital market, and you have to do a lot of different additional things. And all these rules and all these actors are different per continent, per asset class, commodities, rates, etc., are different per market. So it gives you a big number of new actors on new rules to implement in the system. The consequences are that our system cannot by itself anymore run the activity of the bank. We need to be open for integration with all these other systems. We felt that it was a big opportunity for us to be able to provide out-of-the-box integrations with key players of these other systems, because there were so many rules and aggressive deadlines from the regulators. We said, oh, well, instead of asking the banks to themselves integrate our system with others, let's provide them with out-of-the-box integration. But our developers' profile doesn't fit with these new products. Actually, they were not developers. They were technical consultants building ad hoc integration for some pieces, but there were no real software. So now we needed real software products that we will be able to sell to the banks. So we needed real developers, okay, with the software development skills and knowledge of integration domain. And this is where we asked Luxoft to partner with us to provide us this additional software development team able to build these products. A bit more of context about the values that we were following and that we believe in. How many of you knows about Agile? Okay. And how many of you knows about the OODA loops? Okay. So, as you don't know about the OODA loops, let me briefly introduce John Boyd. So John Boyd was born in 27, died in 97, and he was in the US Army. He started as a fighter pilot in Korea and ended as military strategist during the Gulf War. He was a student of the Top Gun Academy, so you know this movie, I guess. So we have the same age. So he was so good a student that he was asked to stay in the academy as an instructor. And when he was instructor of this academy, he developed his first theory, which is called energy maneuverability. This theory is still now at the basis of aerial combat theory and at the basis of planes manufacturing. So the guy is quite smart. But this theory is not the one that is interesting us today. We are interested in the OODA loops theory. The OODA loops theory, according to John Boyd, is the answer to the question, okay, how do we adapt to a changing world? Well, when the change is slow, we already know the answer. We just let the fittest survive. Okay, it's evolution theory, it's Darwin. But when the change is fast, what to do to adapt to a fast-paced changing world. And this is where John Boyd invented this, well, developed this OODA loops theory. It came from his observation during the Korean War. During the Korean War, there was an aerial combat between the the Russian MiG-15 and the American F-86 Sabre. The MiG-15 was more recent, so with better technology, was more armed, was more stable, and was faster. Okay? However, on 700 combats studied, the MiG-15 won only 70 combats. So 1/10 for the plane that is supposed to be better than the F-86. So why that? So John Boyd studied these combats and tried to understand what could happen. To do this, he modeled his behavior as a pilot during these combats. And this is where the OODA loops are coming. Observe, orient, decide, and act. This is what happens for John Boyd as a pilot. First, he would observe the situation and the opponent's move. Then comes the orient phase. Orient phase is the phase that is unconscious. Okay? It's where your brain, your experience, your knowledge analyzes all the situation, the complex situation, analyzes it in small items, and then creates new options. John Boyd calls this destruction and creation. You know, it's really analysis and synthesis to form the option. This is where your knowledge, your culture, your environment, your experience plays a role. It's completely unconscious. You just analyze and create options. Then you decide which option you will choose, or you decide to observe something else. And then you act. You act and you see the results of your actions in the outside world. You observe again, and then this is the OODA loop. Okay? What happened is that the American plane, the F-86, has a bigger windshield than the MiG-15, for one. And two, remember that the MiG-15 was more stable, so the American was less stable, and because it was less stable, it was reacting faster to the commands. So the American pilot would observe better, would act faster. And this is where John Boyd said, okay, so this is the thing. This is where the American pilot would win. He will win because he can loop faster than the MiG-15 pilot. He can loop faster through this OODA cycle. And this is the key. Now, for those who know Agile and Lean, etc., you can relate this loop to all the loops that you already know. Basically, John Boyd, so this is early 60s, okay? John Boyd thought that this was really the master theory for how to adapt to a changing world, okay? And all other theories can be seen as implementation of this one. Basically, the continuous improvement in Agile and Lean, okay? Lean startup, okay, you have some hypothesis, you choose one hypothesis, you check as fast as possible what happens on this hypothesis, okay, and then you analyze this to see if you pivot or if you persevere. PDCA, for example. Then in the plan phase, you decide what you will do next. In the do phase, you do it. In the check phase, you observe the result. And in the act phase, then here it's where you generate new insights to see what can be done next to improve. However, so this OODA loop, okay, is the same as the loops that we already know from Agile, from Lean Startup, etc., PDCA. There is one thing, however, is that John Boyd thought that time was predominant here. It's the way you loop, well, the faster you loop in the loop will make you win the party. Basically, your loop has to be better, has to be faster, has to be smoother, has to be killer. Killer is, thanks to the orient phase, this is where your creativity will make a difference, to have killer ideas here, okay? So this is the main idea of the theory. You should observe better, you should loop faster by removing latency, you should loop smoother by removing all frictions, and you should generate killer ideas. The problem is that in the context of this outsourcing factory, I don't know if you know this movie, it's the first buddy movie of history. You know the buddy movies? Two people don't like each other and then at the end they love each other, yes? This is the first buddy movie of history. It's called the Defiant Ones. It's in the America in 58. So in the Defiant Ones, Tony Curtis and Sidney Poitier, they are prisoners, okay? And it's during the segregation in America. They are chained together in the prison because a guard had some sense of humor. And they escape after an accident. And despite very, very opposite goals and cultures, etc., they are forced to collaborate to escape the guards and the dogs. I felt a bit like this when I started this project. I would be this one. I felt a bit like this because, okay, I just told you we have to remove latency, we have to remove friction, we have to observe better together, and then we are trying to do this together with two different places, with two different cultures, with even two different goals as companies, because we're not the same company. So we are trying to loop better, to loop faster, because we are trying to win this market opportunity, and aren't we adding another level of difficulty here? Okay? It felt to me very contradictory to remove latency and being two, to remove friction and being two, etc. Well, however, we don't have a choice. Well, if we don't do it, we die, basically. So instead of saying, no, this is not the situation where we can use the OODA loops, this is a situation where we can just do waterfall and it will be good. No, we decided to do it extreme instead of giving up. And Ionut will tell you how we do it.
Yeah, okay, thank you Xavier for this great introduction. Let's continue to see, having now the theory in mind and the context of the OODA loops, let's see what we did together in order to be faster, smoother, to be killer. Initially when we started the collaboration, mainly 3 years ago, we were different companies with different mentalities, different backgrounds, different managerial structures. So everything was very, very different. But we needed this part of observation. So we need to observe the things in the same way. We need to track as well the direction we are moving towards, if we are on a good track or not, if there is a room of improvement. But what we did for this observation loop? Initially we had a lot of systems, a lot of, let's say, applications, and it was a bit difficult to check the status of each of all, because, for example, if there is an issue in that particular system, not all the people is aware about the context. That's why we came up with this solution called monitoring dashboards. If you attended the morning's presentation for Xavier, the perfect dashboard is just related to those dashboards. But practically what we cover with this monitoring dashboard, so it's just a dashboard that aggregates all the systems that we have and measure the health of them. The next step was to agree on the colors. So agreeing on the color scheme is very important, because if you see here a red, everybody should be aligned to act consistently. Taking in particular this example, you will see, for example, there are reds, there is orange, there is yellow. So we agreed, we observed that we have problems, but it's not so important as much as everybody have the same understanding and the same perception about the system we are using. Next thing that we had to develop were the visibility metrics. Why? We need them just to be more predictable, to offer more transparency. For example, we developed custom visibility metrics in terms of high-level capacity. Why? We needed to be aware in the future about our capacity, taking into account the holidays, the trainings, all the days off we will have. Also, we need to measure our load. if you are under or overload in regards with the applications. Also, we had to monitor the velocity, we had to monitor the focus factor. All of these things, all of these visibility metrics help us to be aligned and to be more visible and predictable. Let's take an example from our testing strategy plan. Initially, when we started the collaboration, we had the product owner, that guy on the right side, in Paris. The product owner mainly needed to understand the business, to write the business into sort of language, for example, as it is here by following lines, boxes. So mainly he describes the functionality. On the other side, we had the developers offshore in Bucharest understanding the functionality, the requirements mainly, and implementing these requirements at the end. Hopefully, what is visible for everybody is just the test status, which if it is green, it's supposed the implementation is there and the product is working fine. But sometimes there might be a wall between these guys. Why? Because neither the product owner can see and reads the code written by the developer to check if the implementation is consistent, to see if all the business cases were covered, nor the developer could prove the implementation is there and it's consistent with the initial specs. So that's why we deal at that time with this sort of ambiguous language between these two types of stakeholders. What we did in order to avoid these situations was to move towards ubiquitous language. And in regards with this ubiquitous language, we took Cucumber. Cucumber, it's mainly a step beyond JUnit. It's a step in order to provide better visibility and transparency across all the tests written by the developers. Having Cucumber, everybody can check and see the tests and which is the meaning of those tests written by technical stakeholders. As well, we took Fitness. Fitness is another solution, but it's more towards the collaboration. For example, in context of Fitness, a non-technical stakeholder, mainly a product owner or a business analyst, can define its own test scenario by using a ubiquitous language, understood by all the stakeholders, and he can commit the tests on the subversion system. He can as well launch the test, and at the end he sees the status. Seeing the status, which is green, there is a proof that the scenario implemented by himself, it's supported by the product or the system under test. So it's a very nice way in order to provide visibility and order to observe the things. In order to go faster and smoother through our loop, we also decided to break our build into two stages. The first stage is made of Cucumber and JUnit tests. These tests are very quick tests, triggered many times on daily basis by developers. And the second stage is made of Fitness. And the thing is that Fitness, it's asynchronous in regards to the first stage, just to be faster and to be smoother. And Fitness tests could be easily launched as well by the product owners or any other stakeholder. So by having these two stages in an asynchronous way, we are a step towards being faster and smoother inside our loop. Okay, the next loop, it's orientation. It's very important because from the theoretical perspective, having two teams, as I said in the beginning, normally it should be better. We should be stronger together, but it's not always like this. Without working on this, or without working inside this loop to happen the things better and smoother, these things doesn't implicitly happen. But what we do in order to orient better ourselves? We started by creating a lot of code best practices, guidelines, architecture context diagrams, architecture references. We have as well our technology radar. Having all of this put in place and well documented, it ensures by default consistency and knowledge sharing across all the distributed teams involved into the project. Another step was to use an internal Stack Overflow solution, which is mainly based on AskBot, in order to mutualize the experience and knowledge sharing. So this solution contributed even more towards collaboration. Collaborating, we orient better together. A thing which is a bit towards the extreme, we have as well coding dojos. Having coding dojos, mainly we gather a bunch of colleagues in one room and having a coding task like a target. We try to implement that coding task by using a different language, programming language mainly, that we are used with, and to provide at the end the solution. The feedback that we had during these coding dojo sessions came from our colleagues was that they find out a lot of interested solutions, because during the coding dojo sessions we were based on TDD approach, for example, we were based on extreme peer programming, and all of these things we can bring out of these coding dojo sessions and help us to go faster and smoother through the orientation loop. So it helped us a lot. Having the observation and orientation loop smoother and faster, it's not enough. So you need to have the end-to-end chain of loops. We need to have as well to be aligned on decision and synchronized on actions together, because this is what is missing mainly. Just a bit of context about our portfolio, how we are organized. So we have a bunch of streams. A stream is mainly tackled in Scrum, and we have a part of Kanban. These things made our deliverables. And inside each team there is a part of Kanban, and as well every team has a number of streams. And now if we take a look over our structure from the team's perspective, we have technical teams led by a technical guy. In these two teams, for example, we could have as well a QA guy, and we have a pool shared of product owners. So in case of one stream that could fit in just one team, we keep that stream in that team, because it's even better. It helps the intra-team collaboration. But from the flexibility standpoint, if we deal with one stream that doesn't fit in just one team, we can go inter-team streams. So by having these inter-team streams, we also break the silos and increase collaboration. It helps us a lot in order to even more provide a more predictable throughput in terms of deliverables. So it's very useful for us. Having all of this said, I would agree we need to communicate. We need to communicate because only through communication we synchronize ourselves and decide together in a better way. In terms of communication, we have these daily meetings. For example, we have Scrum meetings, which happens from Monday to Friday. We have weekly meetings based on different topics, for example, from delivery perspective. And inside these meetings, we involved stakeholders from technical, from BA, from QA side, representatives of them. And we would have as well monthly meetings, for example, workshops. We have follow-ups on different topics, and we have as well technical presentations, because we want to keep people in charge with the latest technology trends. Just to summarize, we have this recurrent cycle of daily, weekly, monthly meetings on different topics that help us to decide and act together in a better way. Since the team is growing and growing a lot, currently we are around 50 people in Bucharest, so it's very difficult to keep in touch with all of these people on daily basis. What we added is just to have these mood monitoring meetings. There are meetings when we try to discover the people's mood, the people's satisfaction just in time to isolate eventually risks that might appear in the future. So based on the outcome of these meetings, we decide to act immediately, to be faster and to avoid unpredictability in the future. In a nutshell, we did all of these things as examples. I presented them to you, but it's not the end of story. So don't imagine that with all of these things, our OODA loops are very fast, very smooth, very killer. We still have things to improve, so we are under a continuous improvement. In regards to these improvements, we deal as well with challenges. Since the beginning, mainly we started with 3 developers in the beginning of our collaboration, and since the beginning we have this topic of scalability. Scalability from the team's perspective, from the delivery perspective, from everything's perspective. How we deal with scalability, we, for example, reorganize ourselves in terms of meetings. Now we don't have meetings with all the people anymore. We have meetings only with representatives of people. We have, for example, Scrum of Scrum meetings. We have retrospective of retrospective meetings. So we change a bit the way we are doing meetings. Also the procedures we change a lot. For example, we need to continuously monitor and keep creating and updating the procedure inside the team just to fit the scalability perspective. We have as well another challenge in terms of visibility over delivery bandwidth. What it means, we need to be predictable. We need to provide visibility, transparency across in time, in future, across several sprints in the future, not one sprint ahead. So this is another challenge we are dealing with. And of course, we deal with infrastructure. Since the beginning, we changed the infrastructure a lot. We upgraded the system, we replaced the system, and having a poor infrastructure might slow down our OODA loops. So it's very important to have an efficient infrastructure. Of course, everything has a cost. All the things that we shared with you, we pay a cost for. For example, we pay a cost for meetings. Scrum methodology has a lot of meetings. Even more, we added on top of these meetings our meetings. Why? Just because we need to collaborate. We need to decide and act together. We need to fasten the OODA loops. Of course, we pay the cost for documentation. We have a lot of documentation. We have technical documentation, guidelines, blueprints, architectural diagrams, context diagrams, everything, and we pay a cost for this documentation. It doesn't come for free. And of course, we paid a cost and still paying a cost for in-house system development. All the systems that we presented here, the monitoring dashboards, the visibility metrics, we paid a cost for everything, but at the end we are happy because the cost we pay, it's under the gain we get at the end with all of these things.
Okay, thank you, Ionut. If I want to give you a takeaway from this experience of offshore software development, I would take the metaphor of dancing. Okay, the success factors are practice. It's true for everything, but as we don't know each other at the beginning, as we are two of them not knowing each other, this is really key to be better, to loop better and to loop faster. There is no such thing as practicing and discovering. Synchronization, well, this goes without saying. This is really, really important to synchronize yourself when you are two different entities, and this is how we make our OODA loops smoother. And how do we make our OODA loops killer? Then we are two companies, okay, working offshore. We want to make our OODA loops killer by leaving room to the other, okay? This is this way that we will have the creative ideas pop up from both parts, okay? If we have one company telling the other, okay, do like this, like this, like this, then we we just ignore the creativity of the other, and it's very important to have this, to leave the other, okay, in a certain frame, and to leave the other be creative. Okay, this is a key success factor. So, big thank you to our sponsors and to our partners. And now if you have some questions, we'll be happy to answer them. Yes?
Yeah, sure. Currently, we split this retrospective in retrospective of retrospective because having a retrospective with 50 people is not suitable anymore. It takes a lot of time, and based on our experience, some of the guys will be shy to speak in front of others. So it's a big audience. We thought to have a retrospective internally inside each team and to gather the outcome of that, and to have another layer of retrospective with representatives from each team and to discuss the results and the actions.
Yes?
You do? I don't know.
Me?
You,
Yes?
you personally.
No, there are a lot of people practicing Agile in Murex.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Not all of the company, but there is a program to move Agile to the whole company. Yes. But myself, I'm practicing Agile for a long time now.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions? No? So thank you very much. And
Thank you.
Pierre asked me to tell you to go directly to the big room. Okay? So thank you very much.
Thank you.